Howdy and welcome back to the Ineligibles podcast. My name is Will Stone. I have left you guys hanging. I've abandoned you guys and I apologize. I'm so sorry. In the beginning of the season, with so much going on, I just disappeared. And yeah, that's on me. Had some traveling. Went to a wedding in California, went to a wedding in Greece, was there for about 10 days. But enough about me. You guys want to hear about football and this matchup with the Missouri Tigers. So let's uh, let's take some time to kind of uh, take inventory, take stock of everything that's kind of happened here in the first five. Has it been 5 games? We played 5 football games. Season is halfway through uh, after this week, so that's pretty wild. That's wild to say. But we do have 2 bye weeks, so it's not really, it's kind of a weird year calendar wise. But anyways, 5 games we've seen this A&M team take the field. Only their original starting quarterback in the first two, which brings me to my first little prerequisite here. Um, I would encourage you, and myself included, to not ride the roller coaster, because that's what this is. Um, First year coach, quarterback issues, things, going on there. Um, there's going to be highs, there's going to be lows. We've seen that in the past 3 weeks. Florida, really, really high. Bowling Green, kind of scared people. Arkansas got pretty choppy. Is it going to go back up? Who knows? The best approach here is to kind of just get off the roller coaster, take a step back. I know this all means a lot to us, but just try to at least a little bit disengage and just kind of observe things for what they are and kind of analyze what's happening, because it's probably not as good or as bad as you think. I typically say that about game ones of seasons. Uh, this year, more than ever. Not as bad as we think, not as good as we think. This year, it was bad. We weren't as bad, and we are not as bad as most of our fans probably thought we were after the game against Notre Dame. I digress. So let's talk quarterback. It's important. It's very very topical, and it's really unknown for this. Like I think it's unknown for the season. It's unknown for especially for this week. Uh, you know, A&M's 4-1. They play 4-0 Missouri, who is ranked in the top 10. I know they're in the top 10. I didn't know hardly any prep on this, so we're just kind of shooting from the hip. They are 9 in the top 10. 4 top 10 teams lost last week, so they kind of moved up by default. Uh, so yeah, you have a top 10 team coming to Kyle Field. It's the only good game of the weekend, if we're being honest. So yeah, it sucks that it's at 11 a.m. I complained about that when it came out over the summer, but it is what it is, and you have a chance to go make a statement. Um, but for your quarterback spot this week, I think what we've seen, you know, I think Marcel Reed has shown a tremendous ceiling as a college football quarterback. Um, what I think he's shown uh, as well in the 3 games that he started is he's not there yet. Very high ceiling, but as of right now, it's still all potential. It's not being displayed consistently, and it's simple stuff. Like obviously his arm talent's there, his accuracy can be there when he wants it to. The dual threat ability with his running, obviously there. The juke against that Florida player, I mean that's filthy stuff. But uh, I feel great about the future of our quarterback room. But we've we've kind of been a little fortunate. Uh, so against Florida, he's having a good game. We're running the ball for 300 yards, and everyone's like, "Oh my God, Marcel Reed is amazing. Why did we not bench Connor against Notre Dame and put this kid in? We would have easily won the game." Yada yada yada. Um, and then Bowling Green comes along, and honestly, I'll say this against Bowling Green, that first drive, the scripted drive to open the game, that was as good as I've ever seen Marcel Reed look. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, oh, okay, like maybe he's for real. Like maybe it's clicking now. Maybe this is who he is. He was just red hot out of the gate. Great throws, great decisions. Everything was on target. Believe he hit Theo for the touchdown on that opening drive. Kid is having a great year, Theo Orstrom. But the rest of the game was very hit and miss. Some very, very inaccurate throws. I felt like they were daring us to pass and we couldn't do it. And then Arkansas was the same exact thing. Uh, when when he was accurate, big plays. Obviously, the huge 50 plus yard touchdown to Noah Thomas, that was great. But they're I think defenses are able to key in and be like, okay, if you're not going to beat us consistently through the air and throw passes on time and on target, then we'll take our chances. And it almost worked for Arkansas. Honestly, a little fortunate A&M was to get out of that one with a win. Had the fumble on their side of the field that we punched it in a few plays later. Two other turnovers. Of course, the one sealed the game. Le'Veon Moss apparently was dinged up, according to Mike Elko, in the middle of the game, and then came back into the fourth quarter, and just put the Hogs to bed. So, but should not take, like I'll take the win every day of the week against that team, against anybody in the SEC, but it has to be better. Marcel Reed has to be better if he's going to be leading the offense on Saturday and in any other game. But there's some weird kind of discourse about from other places outside of A&M, for other outlets, I should say, about our quarterback room. Some expect Connor to start. I don't know. Like I'm sure they have their own sources and they have perfectly valid sources. I don't have any sources, so I know you're going to see things on Twitter, and I'm of the opinion that I think it's best kept under wraps until Saturday gets here. In fact, while I'm saying that, let me look at the injury report, because I think that came out about an hour ago. Which Connor's been questionable the last like 3 weeks, and last 2 weeks has not even suited up in the game. Again, questionable this week. TJ Shanahan out again. Armaje Reed Adams, he got hurt at the end of the Arkansas game. He's questionable, but that's it in terms of anyone that we didn't already know about. So Connor could play. There's discourse out there that that's at least a possibility. We'll see. If you're behind on Connor's injury, it sounds like something with his shoulder. Again, no one really knows anything. I will say in the video warming up against Florida, or before the Florida game, very, very painful for him to even attempt to throw a football. So I'm assuming that's shoulder. But it's I think my point is against a team like Missouri, and later on against a team like LSU that's also going to come to Kyle Field at the end of this month, another ranked team. I think you need Connor back, and there's kind of it's interesting to see both sides of this thing, because and let me just stop right there, because part of my, how should I put this? I'm still very engaged in this team, in this sport, but something about quarterback injuries just make me want to just stop following it, which I'm not going to do, obviously, but it takes the wind out of my sails quite a bit. And yeah, it's next man up, blah blah blah. Like, I get it. Like, I'm with you on that, but it sucks, man. Like, Connor was bad against Notre Dame. That's an undeniable fact. Connor was the highest rated quarterback in the country the following week. Don't care who it's against. Marcel Reed came in that same game and wasn't, even nearly as good as Connor was. Connor was looking like his old self, and apparently was injured then, like already. And but looked, was extremely accurate, made good decisions, and looked like some of the flashes that we've seen before. And to not have him for the last 3 weeks, like this is the first year of this coaching staff. Everything is in front of A&M, and it still is. But this is a team that needs to get better each week, and I just want our quarterback out there. Like I think most would agree with that. But now there's this. There's two different camps. There's like we should just ride with Reed. He's 3-0. Blah blah blah. I think that's kind of silly. Wins are a team stat, not a quarterback stat. Now, there's things to be said about his leadership. I think Marcel Reed is a very good leader. I think Connor can be that as well, and has shown some of that himself. But yeah, I think the bottom line here, so we can move on to something else besides quarterbacks, is people get up and down and like, oh, like against Florida, Colin Klein, amazing OC, best OC in the country. Against Bowling Green in Arkansas, oh, Colin Klein sucks, fire him. He's no good. So there's plays there. There's been plays there all year, and we need a quarterback. In my opinion, I think Connor is the best bet to execute the offense and hit open receivers. That's really all it is. If our quarterback can just hit open receivers, this team can win 10 football games. That's not unrealistic whatsoever. But if we can't, that gets way less likely. Teams are going to suffocate us, put 9 guys in the box and say, hey, throw it. We dare you. And if we can't do it, we are more likely to lose games somewhere along the way. So that's my piece on the quarterback. So that being said, I have no idea if Connor will start this week, if Marcel Reed will start this week, what's going to happen there. If Connor starts, I feel very good about our chances. If Reed starts, not as good, but definitely still a very winnable game. Let's talk about these first 5 games and kind of what we've seen from the team. Like just kind of call some guys out, call some positions out on who's playing well and where we might have room for improvement. Number one with a bullet, biggest story of the year, biggest improvement, biggest bright spot has been the play of the offensive line, and that's with multiple injuries. You lose Mark Naboo for the season in the very first game. You lose your backup center, Cooley, briefly along the way. TJ Shanahan makes a couple starts at center, plays very well. Trey Zune has been awesome. Armajay Reed Adams has been awesome. That is an NFL offensive lineman. I think both of those guys, Zune and Reed Adams, I think they both could come back conceivably, like from a eligibility standpoint. But I think they're gone to the NFL because they're playing at too high of a level. And hopefully, I mean, Reed Adams questionable this week. You really, really need him for an opponent like Mizzou. So hopefully he's going to be all right. But he's playing extremely well, and really like everyone that's come in the game, in any of the games in non-garbage time, has played at a very high level. They're not the best line in the country. They're not elite, but it's a good offensive line. It's a vast improvement from the last 3 years, if we're being honest. And Chase Basanis is playing well. Demetrius Crownover, Ruben Fothery are rotating at right tackle, which you don't really see a lot on the O-line. You typically tend to not want to do that. You want to stick with the same 5 guys, but having 2, or I guess having 3 guys that can play tackle and that are getting reps, in important games, and playing at a high level, it's hard to see that as a negative. But I'm not sure if one guy will separate and garner all of the reps at a certain point this season, but right now it's working, so we'll see how it goes. But I cannot say enough. I can't overstate how impressive they've been, how important it is that they have been as good as they have, and not just for this season, but I mean, I felt like I've been taking crazy pills the last 3 years because I see the players we bring in, and I'm like, these are not bad football players. I know they can play offensive line and do it well, and I don't know why they're not. I can't explain that to you why they're not, but uh, it's probably as simple as we had a poor offensive line coach the last 2 years, very poor, uh, and now we have a good one, and we have a really good O line. It's funny how that works. Coaching does matter. It's not, of course, stars matter. We're all about the stars, but if you have a very poor coach that the guys have no clue what they're doing, it doesn't matter. If you have five Larry Allens out there, so yeah, it's number one on my list for most impressive, most important, biggest improvement, whatever superlative you want to throw on them. It makes me feel very good about the rest of this season, keeping whatever quarterback we have upright, and hopefully getting better on offense. But yeah, so moving on, obviously Le'Veon Moss is a top tier SEC running back. Uh, he's, I feel like with any running back, if they show it enough as a junior, or like, through their junior year, they're probably gone to the end. I feel like I shouldn't, make this all about who's going to leave next year because I've already brought that up about the O line. But what I'm saying is enjoy number 8 while he's here because he's very, very good. And we're going to win a lot of games this season because of the O line and his ability to run the football, break tackles. He's been excellent. Um, Honestly, Amari Daniels has shown some good things too. Like obviously it would be ideal to have Ruben Owens. Hopefully he's back full strength next season. But Amari Daniels, he's quietly having a pretty nice year himself. EJ Smith has done some nice things when he's been in the game. I think all three. And I haven't watched. I haven't studied the film intently. But all three have done, at least pretty well in pass pro. So I think running back is an arrow up position. Um, Receiver, it's still a mixed bag, and it's hard to even tell without consistent quarterback play, uh, and not just like a specific player, but like just having the same quarterback in the game for all your games, which is what everybody wants. But receivers, you've seen flashes from Cyrus Allen. I think he's a top guy. Moose, you know, it's no secret. Moose. I think Moose plays when he wants to play, when he feels like playing, and when he does, he looks great. And when he doesn't, he lets guys run free and kill our ball carrier. So it's yeah, it's he's gonna make a handful of plays. You know, he'll make a play or two a game, but his consistency is certainly not where you want it to be for a fifth year guy, especially with his kind of talent. But beyond that, I think Janae Walker has shown some things. Noah Thomas, obviously, I think the last couple of games, I think Noah has, I think he's played well. I think he's obviously with the big touchdown last week, but he's had other times where he's been open, and we just haven't been able to really get the ball to him on a consistent basis. So jury is very much still out on receiver. If I think that's the key to the whole season, is if we can get better quarterback play and hit our receivers when they are open, and if they can continue to work on their routes, create separation, catch the football well, that opens things up so much for this offense because the running game is there, the scheme and the players and the execution, that's all there in the running game. It can be one of the best in the conference, but without the threat of passing, it's going to get stifled a lot more. Jabray Barber's back. He is, broke his foot in the spring. He was showing, they thought he was going to be the number one guy. Probably not full strength. I would assume he's not at full strength after, probably being on a boot for the whole summer. And, I think he came back or played in the Florida game, and then he's played each of the last 2 weeks. It's just, he's getting back into game shape and that sort of thing. So hopefully see some more out of him. They've they've tried to use Terry Bussey a little bit here and there. Hopefully they can find some more creative ways to get him. Like I saw him last week, in the backfield taking carries at running back. Obviously, they try him on jet sweeps and things like that, but it's got to be a little less predictable. Maybe some more screens, things of that nature. But all in all, in tight end, I think Theo is really, really starting to come into his own. Um, if you've listened to me for the last, since we signed him, obviously 22 big signing class, very star-studded at the top, and lots of of news and stuff like a number one class, all that kind of stuff. But he was a guy that we had our eyes on as like, hey, all the physical gifts you could ever want in a tight end are there. Like 6'6", 260, very fast for that size. Just a big physical looking kid who can catch the football well. Very natural pass catcher, and obviously has the frame to be a good blocker, which I think he's improving there quite a bit, especially compared to the last 2 seasons. It's finally starting to click for him a little bit. But obviously, catching the football, those 2 touchdowns are not easy catches to make. So that shows his ball skills, and I think he's one of those guys. And sorry, I've got to take a drink. My voice is a little bit rusty, and I've still got 40 minutes of this, so bear with me. Okay. Um, so yeah, that's it. Kind of goes back to my main theme of this team that we talked about in August. Talked about you know after the Notre Dame game with the talent you have and the players that like the way the roster is constructed with so many transfers, some younger guys getting significant playing time for the first time in their careers, and a brand new coaching staff, all of that stuff put together. This should be a team, and is looking, at least in some places, to be a team that gets better as the season goes on. And we have not seen that for the past 2 years, not by a long shot. Um, we're starting to see it a little bit with this one, and I think the O line it's been pretty solid across the board. Running game definitely picked up, uh, in the Florida game, and has definitely had its moments. Quarterback and receivers, I think a guy like Theo, who has only played football in Sweden until he got here, has not played a lot, really at all, the last 2 seasons of any meaningful playing time. Finally getting on the field, getting live game reps. He's got five games under his belt now. That's five more than than he had coming into the season. Um, so I think by the end of the year, you look up and you're like, okay, we have uh, a guy like him who has. I think what I'm trying to say is his trajectory is looking up. It's looking it's trending way up. So excited for him. Trey Watson, he's been fine. Um, had the touchdown last week. Uh, uh, has had a couple drops. I wouldn't call like he has a drop problem, but I think all the pass catchers in general could use a big. I think they'll see a big uptick when and if Connor returns to the starting lineup. On defense, obviously starting up front, the defensive line is playing at the level that we thought that it would. Um, Obviously, Nick Scorton, 2 sacks last week, had the uh, sack forced fumble that we recovered to kind of seal the game against Arkansas. Um, and people were kind of, concerned or like maybe just making comments of, oh, like we have a great D line. How come we can't get sacks or, stuff like that, blah, blah, blah. Well, the first 4 games of the season, everyone was just, trying to go max protect and just get the ball out as quickly as possible. Um, and like even against Bowling Green, where like the secondary was kind of letting us down, uh, we destroyed them up front, which we should have, but like we absolutely did, and not even just like You know, it's not just the talent of the players; it's also the scheme and the way we've schemed up blitzes. You know, we had Jaden Hill, like no one blocked him. You hear Elko say it in the press conference, like, "Hey, yeah, we blitzed him twice. He didn't get blocked on either one. Got a sack on one. Should have had a sack on the other." And like it's happened even with twists and stuff on the interior. Getting Shamar Turner free looks, Rylan Kennedy or Shamar Stewart. They've all played at a very high level. There's no one I can really pick on the front, and they're rotating a little bit. I think your main guys are still playing most of the snaps. Like you don't see Scorton or Shamar Turner or Shamar Stewart come off the field very much. They do rotate out, of course, but they're playing quite a few snaps. Regis, I think he's been really damn good. Just so like such an underrated player by fans and media alike. Um, he's been great. I think Rodis Johnson has done some nice things when he's gotten in. David Hicks has shown some flashes. Shamar Turner obviously has done very well. So D line A plus, whatever you want to call it. They're doing very well for us right now. At linebacker, it's such an interesting spot with where we're at. You have four guys getting a lot of playing time. Torian York is a terrific football player and a great leader and a great guy. Um, but he's not going to be the most athletic or tall uh, or fast linebacker of all time. I think he is what he is, but his ability to I think lead the defense, um, play the run very very well, and get guys lined up. I think it's very valuable, and he's playing well when he gets matched up or gets out in space. It gets a little bit choppy, and he can be a little bit vulnerable there. But that's why you pair him with a guy like Scooby Williams, who I think, Scooby was a defensive end in high school. Played inside linebacker last year at Florida under our current linebacker coach, and Florida fans love to rag on him, and which they're not really doing anymore because they are preoccupied ragging on their coach, which they should be doing. But you know, was still trying to learn how to play the position last year, and you could see a flash here and there, but it was never consistent. Um, I think he's been great when he's been on the like. I think he was banged up. Maybe I think he missed the Florida game with an injury, but he's been great in coverage, great in the run. Like he's playing very very well. But they still rotate. Like I think Damian Sanford has played pretty well at times. And then DeShields, I think he's mostly used as a blitzer on third downs or like a blitz package type of guy. And he's always like he does his job when he's out there. So I think you got four pretty good ones. I don't think any are elite at this point, but against the run, let me start there. Let me emphasize that is the run defense has been stout, but like ever since, like obviously against like there's been some leaks here and there, like against Bowling Green, we had the reverse or whatever, and then just a couple of those those outside runs would get us every now and then. But like Jaquita Jackson, leading rusher in the SEC, got held to like 37 yards against us last week. We had we held so there's a stat in college football in advanced stats called EPA, which we talked to Kelly Ford about that over the summer. But basically it's like it factors in like the what down it is, how many yards you get on a certain down, and it's almost like points per play, but not quite. It's a little bit more advanced than that. But basically, in that stat, we held Florida to the at least in the first half. No, it was the whole game. Yeah, it was the whole game. Uh, we held Florida to the lowest, like the 0 percentile. Like it was the absolute lowest in the country of any team. Uh, Dominated the run game. Dominated Arkansas's run game. Missouri has some guys. We'll talk about Missouri in a minute. Uh, they're not like an elite running team, but they have some guys, especially Nate Noel. He gets going like he can chew up some yards. He's very electric, very fast with the ball in his hands, and if he gets past the first level, he can do some damage. But on to the back end. Actually, Pierce Hale has a great call out here with regards to run defense. Dalton Brooks, helmet sticker for last week. He was awesome. I think Bryce Anderson was kind of battling an injury, didn't play a ton. So Brooks stepped up and yeah, he flashed in a big way against Arkansas. Yeah, I think he's awesome. But really, the whole secondary, it frustrated the absolute hell out of me that because I know they're good players. And against Florida, first half they dominate. You know, it's 20 to nothing. Florida's offense can do nothing. We held the ball like the entire like last half of the second quarter. And in the second half, we're just leaving guys wide open and not playing our assignments and getting biting on play actions and other crap. And I'm like, I know we're still winning by a wide margin, but come on, like we can play better than that. Like let's not lose our focus. And then against Bowling Green, a lot of the same thing. They had one guy. They had the tight end who was who's awesome, but we just couldn't cover him or wouldn't cover him. And it seemed a lot more not schematic, but just like not playing not playing the scheme, like just having busts in coverage, leaving guys open. You saw that get remedied in a big way for 95% of the game against Arkansas. Will Lee the third, aka the blanket. That's the best cornerback I've seen play at A&M since I've been an adult. Even before then, because we weren't very good when I was a kid. So we've had some good corners like Jalen Jones, Miles Jones, Devontae Harris had some nice years. Brandon Williams that one good year, but yeah, that's what a real cornerback looks like. We have not had a guy like him in a very long time. Just absolutely shut down like all of Arkansas receivers. Like he was on Broden, on Armstrong, on Tesla, whatever his name is, the dude that scored the 75-yarder. Willie had a terrific game. Now, opposite him on the other corner, there's been some rotation. It was Javon Thomas, and then it was help me out, Javon Thomas, Des Ricks. I'm blanking on who else has been out there. But they've mixed it up quite a bit. Now Des Ricks, the first few games when he would get in the game, I'd be like, man, like I can see the ability, like you can see the athleticism. It's definitely there. He, but like just was not playing super sound technique is like for a corner. This past week wasn't perfect. I think he had one or two, passes that he gave up, but and they were short passes, So, but he had the great play on the interception, like amazing play to not go through the receiver and get called for a PI, and pick that ball off. Should have had another one, I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken. But I think he's starting to come along. Going back to what I was saying with the offense, this is a young kid. Like I think he's the right age for his grade, but he graduated a year early to enroll at Alabama. Redshirted, didn't play a ton, and then misses the spring here with an injury, and then comes back in the fall, fighting, to get in the mix, and then has been working his way kind of into the rotation, and now, maybe he's hitting his stride, but maybe, this duo, Ricks, Will Lee, maybe that's your two guys going forward. But what does stink, and I think it's not talked about a ton, but it's a significant loss, is the loss of Tyreek Chappelle. was awesome. Like he got moved to nickel. He's played outside his whole career here. Played nickel against Notre Dame. Looked really really good. Got hurt I think in practice the following week, out for the season. I think Elko said ACL. I'm not sure, but definitely season-ending injury for him, which absolutely sucks because like that would be a you know really damn good secondary if you mix him in there. And I think we're still trying to find a guy at nickel. Jaden Hill obviously had some good plays in blitzes, but gave up a big 75-yard pass on the first drive. Now I will say we should have sacked that guy. Like that was like a 6 second play of him to have some time. He kind of escaped the pocket a little bit, threw a great it's a great play. It's a great pass by him, great catch and route by Tesla. And yeah, like that. I think Hill has kind of been the weak link so far. Needs to play a little bit better, or he definitely needs to play better. But yeah, Pierce brings up a great point. BJ Mace is another guy who was injured at the start of the season. I think concussion. Has played sparingly the last few games, but got in quite a bit against Arkansas. Definitely saw him out there, saw him making some good plays. So I would look for him to. I'm not sure if he'll start, but I think he'll be in the rotation a lot this weekend. Other safety spot, big, probably the biggest surprise. I know the offensive line was like my biggest plus, biggest arrow up, but I kind of expected them to be better. I didn't think they'd be as good as they are, but I thought I'd see some improvement. What caught me completely off guard was Marcus Ratcliffe. I mean, we talked about everyone on the roster in like this summer, and barely mentioned him. Like he, I thought he'd be your third or fourth safety behind Bryce Brooks, Trey Jones, he's also played well, did some good things too. But Ratcliffe started the first game and has not left the starting lineup. So he's the in the box safety. Big 6'3", 205 pounds. Excellent run defender. Very rare is he out of position. Don't see him get beat in the passing game either. So if he is getting beat, like we don't have access to the all 22, but you never really see him. With a lot of separation between him and this guy. And yeah, I think he's been a revelation. It's strong safety. So between him, Dalton Brooks, who I've always been a huge fan of, so happy to see him on the field. He's really showing what he can do. Bryce Anderson should be back this week. Obviously, he'll be in the mix. Will Lee, Des Ricks, B.J. Mays. Like there's talent here. I think Javon Thomas. He had a bad rep last week, but that's one rep of a whole game. I thought he showed pretty well the first 3 or 4 games of the season. The secondary is in a place we have not seen in some time, and we're going to need it because I'll use that to kind of segue into the rest of the schedule. Missouri, LSU. We'll talk about Texas later. 3 really good offensive lines, really, really good receiver rooms, good quarterbacks. And honestly, Missouri may have the worst quarterback of the bunch. I think they probably do have the worst quarterback of the bunch. Brady Cook was really good last year. I think Missouri leaned on the running game quite a bit, and people all they talk about is Luther Burden and Brady Cook and Theo Weiss. And Weiss and Burden are great players, but their offense ran through Cody Schrader last year and the effort he played with and that offensive line. The running game is okay. I think it's good for them this season, but it's not what it was last year. And I think Brady Cook, he's not playing at a level like he was last season. So that as far as their matchup with A&M, I don't know if it's so hard to gauge what Missouri is. A lot of it is based on last year because like a lot of those guys are back on their offense. O line is pretty good, but you look at who they played, and it's Buffalo, and it's Murray State, and it's Boston College and Vanderbilt. And the if you look at the advanced stats, like Missouri's being heavily carried by those first two games because they dominated so much in those first two. Like I think you can make an argument that they could have lost them like both of the last two games they played. Certainly against Vanderbilt. You go to collegefootballdata.com and look at the box score for that game. On every game they do a post game win expectancy where they take in all the stats and like the most likely outcomes. And Vanderbilt wins that game like 75% of the time. And I think Missouri had great field position. They made plays, when they needed to, and then won the game in double overtime at home against Vanderbilt, who, let me tell you right now, I think Vanderbilt is a very well coached, solid football team. They do not have the talent that A&M has by a long shot, and that's what's so weird is Brady Cook doesn't get pressured a lot, but he's just not making that many plays, and their offense has just kind of been kind of middling. Like they benefited from short fields, like the quarterback at Boston College, you know, threw two picks and gave Missouri the ball on deep in their own territory. Uh, it's it against Vanderbilt. I'll tell you this. Burton is also their punt returner, and he's really damn good at it. So there was a couple times in that game where, if it's fair caught, they're probably at like the 30-35, but, he returns it into Vanderbilt territory. And, he's a very dangerous player. Obviously, that's not breaking news. But for this defense, which I think has been improving week to week and is playing at a pretty high level right now, they should shut the run game down. I think they will. They've done that against both SEC opponents so far, and this one is not a particularly great running game. As far as the receivers go, the thing with Burden, and he's probably the first receiver off the board next year, I would assume. Um, he's plenty fast. He's not Xavier Worthy. He's not the fastest guy in the world, but he's plenty fast. But where he's dangerous is whenever the ball gets in his hands, he is extremely tough to tackle. Like he's a big, like he's 6'3", like 205, 210, very fast, very agile, very strong. Uh, when he catches the ball on a screen or a short pass, we have got to get him to the ground and wrap up and rally to the ball because that's the one guy you can't let beat you. You know how good he is. The other receivers like Theo Weiss, good receiver. Uh, Cooper, good receiver. The tight end Norfleet, I think he's a fine player, but I think we can kind of hang with Burton. Can we tackle him? Can we get him on the ground and not leave him wide open? Because they're going to try to scheme some things up with him, and like they're not just going to be like, okay, Luther, run a go route, and we'll throw it to you. Like they are very creative with how they get him involved, and yeah, that's the biggest key for the defense is know where he is at all times. Uh, you know, and when you do, when he gets the ball, just wrap up and get him on the ground because if you arm tackle him, he's going to run through that. He's going to run through that and into the end zone. Um, so yeah, run defense very good. Pass defense, when they're locked in, they're very good, but they have these strange lapses where it's not consistent for whatever reason. But um, we'll talk about A&M's offense against Missouri's defense here shortly. Oh, oh, man, I appreciate you guys hanging in there. It is. I feel like I was on a pretty good roll, uh, like in the weeks leading up to the season. I was doing this twice a week. My voice was, I was in a groove. My voice was trained up, and I was hitting my stride. Then I take a 3 week vacation from this, I'm not doing this every day and not talking for an hour straight. And yeah, I'm a little bit rusty. So appreciate you guys hanging in there. Okay, so A&M's offense against Missouri's defense. I'll make this pretty simple, and this is going to be the key for every team we play because until we get to Texas, and honestly, I need to watch some actual film up to like I've seen some highlights from games, but I need to actually watch their defense play before I comment on their abilities. But obviously, performing very well at the moment against the teams that they've played. Don't think they've played a competent offense yet. I think the two Power Five teams they played both started the lesser of their starting quarterbacks, but that's neither here nor there. This is not the Texas part of the show. Missouri and LSU and Auburn, just not world beaters at defensive line. LSU has a guy. They have Braden Swinson, defensive end, very good player, having a very, very good year for himself. Probably playing himself into some draft consideration. But after that, like they have been decimated by injuries. The one defensive tackle that they brought back, Jacoby and Guillory, out for the season already. Harold Perkins out for the season already. The secondary, it's not great. Like the defense in general is not great. A&M against LSU and Missouri and Auburn and Mississippi State for sure can run the ball very successfully if there is a threat of passing the football at all. If we can just manage to hit open receivers in any of these remaining games outside of Texas, I think it's going to take a little bit more to beat them. But against everyone not named Texas, the run game is excellent when it can get opened up. And you know, I'm fingers crossed here. I'm knocking on wood. I'm you know uh, hoping and praying that that Connor can get healthy, stay healthy, and play at the level that we know he's capable of. Or if that doesn't happen, for Marcel Reed, who is extremely talented, I hope I have not uh, left that out in this episode. That I have a ton of confidence in his physical gifts, and if you listen to him talk, man, he's a smart kid, and his future is so bright here at A&M, and I'm thrilled that we have him. But if we want to go and win 10 games, he has to play at a better level. If Connor returns, he cannot play like he did against Notre Dame. That cannot happen. If that happens in any remaining game, we lose, except for New Mexico, I guess. But you can't do that against Auburn or South Carolina, even. You know, like you cannot. Like there's for as much as we complain about the receiver position, and they're not the best receivers in the world, but when they get open, like get them the ball. If we can just do that, this can be a really, really good year. A very strong first year for this program under Mike Elko. So yeah, I feel like that's oversimplified, but it kind of is what it is. I mean, A&M has more talent than everyone they play except Texas, and I think they can be a better team than anyone else they play. LSU is I think they have a very good quarterback. They have a very, very good O-line. Uh, I'm hoping. I think we'll find out in a few weeks if that's going to be a night game or not. I think it should be. That'd be great if it is. Maybe I mean that's the game for the black uniform. So you factor in the environment. It's a game you can win. You can absolutely win it. You should beat Mississippi State. You should beat Auburn. South Carolina, I've kind of left them out of this whole discussion. They intrigue me because their defensive line is really, really good. Their quarterback is dynamic. I think we're still a better team than them. I think we should go in there and beat them. But that's a tough place to play. I'm more scared of that game than I am. I think Auburn sucks, to be quite honest. And I kind of said that in the in the preseason when Auburn's getting hype, and I'm like, okay, they signed some very good freshman receivers. Their quarterback is still Peyton Thorne, and I've seen Peyton Thorne play at Auburn. He's not very good. That has bared out so far, emphatically. Them losing to Arkansas was a travesty and hilarious at the same time. Um, yeah, Pierce, exactly. And honestly, like about South Carolina, yeah, I left them out this preseason as well. I was like, yeah, their SP plus is in the 50s. They don't have a quarterback. They suck. Blah blah blah. Their defensive line's very. I saw a mock draft today that had the Dallas Cowboys taking uh, their their defensive tackle in the first round. Hemingway, I think is his name. The freshman they have, that kid is legit. Dylan Stewart, that's what a pass rusher looks like. That kid is insanely gifted. And obviously the quarterback Sellers, like they should have beaten LSU, like easily should have beaten them, if not for a very dumb play or a very poor, uh, official call, however you want to view that play on the turnover. Um, Absolutely should have won that game, you know. So yeah, like in August when I'm talking about this A&M team and winning 10 games, it was not necessarily like I said this then, but I want to reiterate it now. Um, that sounds like pie in the sky, and for most past seasons it would be. If we played Alabama this year, I do not like our chances to be very honest. If we played Georgia this year, don't like our chances. Ole Miss and Tennessee, tough, tough, tough games. Our schedule does not feature those teams, and 10 wins is a manageable, doable outcome on the schedule. It's in the realm of possibilities, and uh, this game against Missouri, who's ranked number 9, undefeated, coming to your house. SEC Nation's going to be here. College Game Day is in Berkeley for the first time. That's great. Don't want them here. We don't perform well when they are here. So this is a big, big game for this season. This could determine, 8-4 versus 10-2, or 8-4 versus 9-3. You win 9 games in the first year and go win a ball game and get to 10 for the first time since 2012. Yeah, I'll take that. That's a win in my book. So, uh, but do it this week and don't rely on beating LSU and then going into a big game against Texas, who is playing very well right now. I'll say that. Definitely tip of the cap. They have they have shown well in the first 5 games. So, but I say all that, and what's crazy is 10 wins likely get you in the playoff. Like looking at the rest of the field, there's some landmines for some teams out there. I'm interested. Actually, I'll take this moment to kind of go around the country a little bit. Who's for real and who is not for real? Let's just pull up the good old AP Top 25 because there's some teams I want to discuss with you. But yeah, last word on Andrew, Missouri. It's not a must win, not by a long shot. We need to win it to have. Like, if you want 10 wins, you got to win this one, and I think it's very, very doable. I don't think Missouri is really all that great. They're not the team they were last year. Defense is way worse. Offense not quite as good. Just my opinion. I think it's a winnable game, but we need to play our best game yet. I think to win it. Let's go. Okay, so number 1, Alabama. They're. It must be nice to just be God's favorite and just have everything go your way all the time. If you're an Alabama fan, you fire the best coach of all time, and you get Kalen DeBoer, who just does not lose football games ever in his life. Yeah, they're for real. They're not some fluky Bama 4-0. No, they're legit. They're very very damn good. I think Texas is for real. I think Ohio State's for real. After that, I think Tennessee's good. I think Georgia is very good. We'll see about Oregon in a couple weeks. But two teams I want to call out that I think are better than a lot on this list. I think Clemson is back, and I have poured a lot of dirt on Clemson and Dabo over the last 3 years of having this podcast. In fact, I wasn't writing at this time, but 2 years ago, two off seasons ago, if I was workshopping an article about five teams I'm buying, five teams I'm selling, and number one sell was Clemson. I'm like, hey, they're past their prime. They don't have a quarterback. They had DJU at the time. We didn't know how good Cade Klubnik was going to turn out to be, if at all. And even still, to this day, they do not use the transfer portal at all, and it's a very dumb thing to do. Now their high school recruiting still very good, but I think they're for real. I know I feel like if they played Georgia in a game that wasn't the very first one, maybe that game goes differently. But they have just absolutely crushed everyone in their path ever since. So they're actually making a good case for the ACC to possibly get two teams in, which would be very very big for them. Because I think Miami's for real. Uh, they were my buy in the week leading into the season. They had a close call last week against Virginia Tech, but 5-0. I think Cam Ward's an NFL quarterback. I think he's playing at a very high level. Um, they got some real players on defense. Have a good offensive line. Yeah, I think they're for real. Uh, the rest of these, I don't think Michigan is that good. They don't really have an offense to speak of. They kind of got bailed out against USC. I think USC is solid. I think they're probably good, but they're definitely not a great team. Ole Miss, I would have thought Ole Miss would have rolled Kentucky. I picked them in our pick 'em to cover 17 and a half. Obviously, they lost at home, which is even crazier. Um, so yeah, they come in at 13. Notre Dame 14. Clemson 15. After that, look at these three Big 12 teams, all all vying for the Big 12 supremacy. Two undefeateds: Iowa State at 16, BYU at 17. Um, Both have good quarterbacks. Man, I think Iowa when you look at the Big 12, I feel like the teams that were favored at the beginning aren't really quite panning out. Arizona has been hit or miss. K State very much the same, very very hit or miss. Utah is good but not great. Uh, and then you have Iowa State, who knocked off Iowa, is 4-0, has a great quarterback, obviously great coach with Matt Campbell. They might be the team that wins the Big 12 and secures a playoff spot. But right behind them is BYU, 5-0. Retzlaff is playing great at quarterback. I watched their game against K State because I put money on it like a dumbass. Um, and K State had no interest in holding on to the football. They just like I think BYU scored 17 points in like 50 seconds because Kansas State would get the ball. They'd be like, "Hey, here you go. We'll drop it on the ground or just throw it right to you and let you go to the end zone." So um, two G5s, and I think they're both Mountain West. So this is very likely your Mountain West title game. Actually, if you'll indulge me real quick so I can look up this schedule. Oof, October 25th, Boise State at UNLV. 21 versus 25. Yes, yes, Pierce. Boise State at UNLV. Yeah, that's a banger right there. Probably, I would almost guarantee they rematch in the Mountain West title game. Um, the the running back for Boise, that dude is legit, and it's not just, you know, I feel like some G5 players will get you know, will get looked over or thought of as is not as great because they play at a school like Boise State. That's an NFL running back playing in the Mountain West. He is phenomenal. If you have a chance, and in fact, if I can put Pierce's comment back up here, I'm sure there's other big games on October 25th. Obviously, A&M LSU could be one of them, but man, send game day to Vegas, man. Boise State at UNLV. You know, if both are still ranked, UNLV has Syracuse this weekend. They have Oregon State on the 19th. Not sure of Boise's schedule, but man, that would be a sight to see if College Game Day is in Sin City. But there's some very exciting football being played at the G5 level in the Mountain West. And how about, like, this is a team that I wrote down to bring up like last week when I was trying to plan out the show for today. The Indiana Hoosiers are 5-0 for the first time. I don't have the stat. Probably in decades, if we're being honest. And this is not like fluky, like scraping by bad teams, Indiana. No, not at all. They scored 42 points on UCLA, at UCLA, 42-13 at the Rose Bowl. After that, they obviously they trounced Charlotte 52-14, and then take down Maryland 42-28. When I look at EPA for offense amongst all college football, Indiana's in the top 10. Like, in case you don't know, they hired Kurt Signetti, who was the coach at James Madison for their obviously their FCS title runs and their entrance into FBS football in the Sun Belt. And he went up to Indiana, which I thought, hey, like he's not a young guy. I think he's like 61, but take over that program and that conference with, adding those 4 teams that they did. Like, it's not easy to have a really good football team in Indiana, and he seems to have done that kind of right out of the gate. Now, they have some games left that will likely keep them from, advancing this winning streak. But here's their next 4. You tell me which one they're going to lose. At Northwestern, host Nebraska. That's one to watch. Host Washington. At Michigan State. After that, that would put them at 9-0. They would then host Michigan and then go to Ohio State before closing out by hosting Purdue. I'm not saying Indiana to the playoff. I'm just saying to keep an eye on Bloomington. That's all I'm saying. But I think that's a fun storyline. I think Nebraska is a fun storyline. Colorado, I'll be very frank. I do not like the attitudes of Dion and Shador. I think they do things in a very classless way sometimes. But I can't deny the talent of Travis Hunter. I think he is tremendous. Shador, I think, has made some progress as a quarterback. I kind of wanted to bury them after they lost to Nebraska the way they did. But, the Big 12 is still very wide open. I could see Colorado getting back into that mix and maybe doing some damage. But I'll end the show with mentioning that I checked out a mock draft earlier today because I'm trying to make a trade for my dynasty league, and I'm seeing how next year's draft looks for fantasy. But the number 1 pick in this mock draft was none other than Travis Hunter, and I think this would be the first. I'll have to go check this after the show. but I think that'd be the first time since 95 or 6, somewhere in the 90s, that the first player taken was not a quarterback, defensive end, or left tackle. Um, I'll go back and look, but I think if someone's going to do it, it's going to be a guy like Travis Hunter. He is a special football player. And if the team picking uh, does not need a quarterback, hell, even if they do, it could very well be Travis Hunter, which was, I think he has put himself right back into the Heisman race. Speaking of Heisman, we don't talk a lot about it on here. I think it's kind of an overrated thing, but this is a very interesting race for the Heisman. I haven't even looked at odds or anything, but I'm sure there's some Quinn Ewers love, some Jalen Milroe, but how about Ashton Jeanty, the running back at Boise State, or Travis Hunter, or you know, handful of other guys, Cam Ward or Dylan Gabriel or Nico Iamaleava. It'll probably be Milroe or Ewers or something like that. But how about the freaking kid at BYU, the quarterback, Retzlaff? I'm just saying things just to say them at this point. But yeah, so that's our show. Hour 6 minutes. My voice is hanging on by a thread. We will try to get back to twice weekly in the coming weeks. Robert reached out. He will be back on next week to have a bye week breakdown of the first 6 games of this season for A&M. And we'll see how they do against Missouri. We'll break that down as well. So thanks so much for hanging in there, for supporting our show. And I will talk to you guys on Monday. Beat the hell out of Mizzou.